Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to the Cotswold Way Part 11, the start of our journey south to the Roman city of Bath. You meet me here back at Far Westrip Farm. We're just above the dairy farm of some 200 Frisian dairy cattle, and we're just going to make our way across down into the valley of the River Froome before climbing ahead up past Middleyard through Penwood to the top at Coley Peak to enjoy stunning views. We've also thrown in some forts and some Iron Age, possibly pre-Iron Age tumuli as well. So why not come and join me on this fantastic journey heading south as we continue our journey along the Cotswold Way. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is when you're watching my vlog. Hope you're all well as you join on this trek again. We're not yet on the Cotswold Way itself. We're on a narrow country road just going through the hamlet of Far Westrip. Just heading down the valley towards the small village of Ryford, which was an important village back when the Stroud valleys were full of mills making cloth, and we're going to have a look at one of those mills as we walk past or here on the Cotswold Way. In terms of today's weather, it's about 19 degrees. It's quite humid at the moment. There is a little bit of rain, very light rain, as you probably saw on that view across towards Stroud, but I believe that's going to clear up within the next hour or so. In fact, it seems to have just stopped raining here as we're descending into the valley. See you in a bit. Currently looking at Selsey Church with Selsey Common forming the ridge, the high ridge of Common above it. That is going to be our route back. Today we're doing a circular walk, very unusual on the Cotswold Way. I'm normally either returning to a railway station, a bus or my car. Today we're doing none of those. I've walked from home, and when we get to our complete destination, which would then continue on Cotswold Way 12 towards Bath, we're then going back on a slightly different route which involves going past a canal. Just had a slight obstacle then. Just passed through a field of cows, as you probably saw them. They were in front of me, and they were actually congregated all around the gate, or the small stile, which forms part of the Cotswold Way here. And just a few things I wanted to say about cows, because if you're doing the Cotswold Way, unfortunately you will come across cows at some point along your journey between Bath and Chipping Campden. And I don't want to put fear into you, but there have been a number of incidents over the past few weeks where sadly people have been killed by cows. And in fact, in my local paper, there was a gentleman who was crushed by cows at Marshfield, which you will remember probably from my vlog I did on that small Cotswold town not far from Bath. I did that a few weeks ago, and sadly he died, and there's been 3 other deaths over the past 4 weeks. Just a few tips really if you're going through cows. First thing is to make sure that the cows know that you are there. It sounds obvious, but they don't like sudden surprises, so let them become accustomed to you. So if you're going into the field, just go into the field and let them be aware that you're aware. The other thing is to not make any sudden movements, and obviously if they've got calves, don't approach the calves at all. Make sure you give any calves a wide berth, and indeed make sure you don't position yourself between the cows and any fences or hedging, so you've got an escape route if they do try and corral you into a corner. Having said that, all the cows I've come across have been absolutely fine. Sometimes they can be a little bit stubborn and get out of the way. It's just having a little bit of patience. Sometimes a couple of firm words with them, they will move, and generally speaking they are very calm creatures. Obviously different rules if you have a dog with you, and I think that's sometimes where the problems can arise. I don't have a dog, so I'm afraid I can't give you specific advice about walking in fields with dogs, but I understand the best advice if the cows come towards you is to let your dog go off the lead. But if anybody knows or had any experience of cows in fields along your walks and your travels, I'd be very much interested to hear from you, and please drop a comment below. Now this is the point where on our return journey on the Blue Route, more of that later, we'll rejoin and retrace our steps, but this is where the Stroudwater Canal crosses over the Cotswold Way. This is Stanley Mill behind me, a building which first started in the 17th century, though it's been added to many times. Sadly it closed in the 1980s. It was a cloth mill and it used the River Froom and an associated adjacent tidal mill pond to provide the water power that provided the wheels. It's a I believe it's grade 2 listed structure, English heritage. There are plans to restore it, and I've also featured it on another vlog called Stanley Mill. If you go back and look at my channel, you'll find a photo essay I've done which tells you more about it. We've just come through quite an industrial part of the Cotswold Way. It's where the valley floor, the River Froom, flows through, and indeed that would have been industrial as far back as the 18th century, perhaps even further, and it remains to be industrial though for different purposes now. Lots of light engineering and light industrial units. We're now continuing our climb, or starting our climb should I say, not continuing climb. We've descended to the valley floor, the River Froom. We're now starting our ascent. We're making our way to the hamlet of Middleyard, or small village of Middleyard, which lies just to the east of the larger village of King Stanley. Just a note here, this triangle, if you take that fork there, takes you into the village of King Stanley, where you'll find a pub, a co-op, village store and a cafe, which is useful for top-up for refreshments along your walk along the Cotswold Way. But anyway, we're continuing north, should I say south, and not north, used to saying north, south, as we head towards Bath. We carry on up the Cotswold Escarpment and we're going to head towards Middleyard and Penwood. Just to give you a quick overview of where we've come from, that is heading towards the, looking towards the village of Randwick, just to the north of Stroud. And we started our walk today just in the middle of that saddle there, between those two peaks. That is the hamlet of Far Westrip. And we crossed over the ridge of that hill and we made our way down through that vineyard there. We crossed over the valley floor bottom, River Froome, and we've made our way past Stanley Mill, which you can see with the chimney there, the red chimney. And just to the left of that chimney is our old favourite, Mayhill. Yes, I will get back up there one day. And we've then continued across through this wheat field, and we're making our way south. I will keep getting that right. I've been saying north for so long now. South towards Bath. We're not doing Bath today, but we're heading south. That's Selsey Church again, from a different angle this time. And so we'll be walking back that way later today. And yes, we have some more cows. And here we have the village or hamlet of Middleyard. So called, it was named after a property or house called Middleyard, literally because it was sat in the middle of a farm area, or farmed area, farmyard, and that's how the village grew up around that property, how it's got its name. Two things to mention at this point. Come to a crossroads, so we're heading south, and our journey to Coley Peak is right through Penwood. So this means we're at the start of the Woodland Trust territory, and so they look after this wood here, Penwood. But when we head back again, rather than retracing our steps where I'm standing at the moment, we'll be heading left down that way, which takes us across Selsey Common. And if you can see that there, it says Ryford 3.5 miles, or whereabout. It's a direct route about 1.5 to 2 miles from Ryford at this point. So obviously it's a longer route back, but we get to see more things, which is good for you and me. So we're just walking through Penwood. Hope you're enjoying the journey so far. If you do, again, consider a like, a subscribe, a share, or perhaps hitting that bell so get YouTube to notify you. Anyway, we're continuing our walk through Penwood. We're about 1.75 miles now from the Coley Peak, where we'll stop. I'll have some lunch, and I'll tell you something about the views and also about the fortifications that lie up there, which are pretty extensive. So hope you can continue on the journey here along the Cotswold Way. Now just exited Penwood, although we'll be diving back into it again shortly, but it gives us a brief glimpse of the views across the Severn Plain, the River Severn and the Forest of Dean, of which we'll see greater views as we gain height up to Coley Peak. Now entering Stanley Wood, also owned and managed by the Woodland Trust. There's a tree fallen here just blocking our path, but it should be quite easy just to step round it. Sad loss though. Just crossing over an ancient track here. Probably led up from the village of Froster, which I've also done a vlog on. I want to check that one out, see what that place is like, with a long tithe barn. Obviously no longer used apart from walkers like me, crisscrossing Stanley Wood in the opposite diagonal direction. Our track to Coley Peak has widened considerably at this point, and we're now running parallel to the road that goes up from the village of Ewley across towards Selsey Common, skirting the village of Nymsfield. In fact, near Nymsfield is where we'll be doing another vlog soon to uncover the story of Woodchester Mansion, which is a fascinating and unique building here in Gloucestershire. Much evidence of quarrying here in Stanley Wood, but our route continues up above the quarry. We come across one of the original Cotswold Way signs here, back from the early 1970s. Now entering Coley Peak Nature Reserve, which is managed by the Gloucestershire Wildlife Trust. Just come across this old barn. It has some not quite so old signs that the Gloucestershire Wildlife Trust have put up some time ago. They are a bit faded and worn, but they are still useful. It has a map on it, and I will actually put up a proper OS map, but it just got point out a few things. So you've got your bearings. That's up there is Stratford on Avon. Obviously, don't need to explain any more about Stratford. Evesham, where we were the other day, we caught the train to Evesham, and we got the bus down to Broadway, and then we walked to Chipping Campden, and then we caught the bus to Morton Marsh, and thence back via rail. Great Malvern's over here, Worcester's about there, Newent, where I was the other day with the Birds of Prey Centre, got Tewkesbury, Winchcombe, which we passed through, Cheltenham and Gloucester, so the Cotswold Way continues its journey down here. And we are currently outside the village of Nymsfield, just there, and we're going to make our way after lunch to Hetty Pegler's Tump. But before we do that, we've also got to explore the Nymsfield Long Barrow, which dates from approximately 2,500 years BC. This is the information plaque for Nymsfield Long Barrow. It's managed by English Heritage. It also managed Bella Snap, where we were, in Hales Abbey, that we've also seen along the route. It's free to get in. This is how it may have appeared, this schematic diagram, during its time of construction, and you'll see the front bit in a moment. It's one of 150 known barrows across the Cotswold 7 barrows, what they call the Cotswold 7 barrow series, scattered across the Cotswold Hills and into Oxfordshire and Somerset. And these pots were found during excavations in 1937. And the Neolithic burial mound was constructed around 3,800 BC from soil and stone quarried nearby. And the mound originally would have been 2 metres high. So let's go and have a closer look. So behind me lies the front entrance to the Long Barrow, just here. And this bit here where it widens is called Horns. This section, and the section that is behind me here. Now, the long barrow itself was actually used for 2 centuries, for over 200 years, and it's obviously a sacred site because this is where our ancestors would have placed their dead. So it has a spiritual significance, and I think it should be kept in that sacred vein like we would treat churchyards. Unfortunately, I've just seen a load of children running through it, and I think that's how it's been treated over the years. I don't think people realise the significance of what lies here and what it was originally used for. Now, this gives you the best overview of the long barrow. I'm just to one side of the Horns on a high bit of land looking down on it. Just to say that we don't really know a great deal about our ancestors that actually lived, that would have built this mound. And though we know we have a good idea of the purpose of it, we don't really know amazing about how these people lived. And it just makes me think, will people in 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years from now realise how we lived, if indeed man is still here on this planet? Now I'm just going to pan the camera around just so you can see the exterior of the mound. Now that's Coley Peak picnic area and also viewpoint, in which we'll go and have a closer look at that shortly. Also this way round, so again the full 360 here on this side. Yes, that's my rucksack there. So we've got plenty of picnic tables here. It's the other side of that's the entrance again to the barrow. We've got lots of open meadows there, and that forms part of the nature reserve here at Coley Peak. Sadly, I can't see any butterflies. I was hoping that there was going to be lots of butterflies over that grassland there, but none there at the moment. Maybe if the sun makes an appearance later, we might be lucky. Anyway, we're going to head on to look at the views across Coley Peak and then on to Hetty Pegler's Tump. It's a very good topograph at this point. I've shown you some key points here. I'm not going to mention all of them, it's too many to mention. We've got Hay on Wye, Slimbridge and the Wildlife and Wetlands Trust over there. Monmouth, the Blorange, and I'm not sure what that is. That's clearly a mountain or significant hill in Wales. Need to check that one out. Tintern Abbey, which I'm familiar with. The 2 nuclear power stations, although Barclay is closed in 1989, it's been completely decommissioned. Stinchcombe Hill, which we'll see a lot more of as we head south towards Bath over the next 2 vlogs. Dursley, Camlong Down, the Tyndall Monument, again we'll get a good close-up of that, and Downham Hill, which we'll see more of as well. So here we are at Coley Peak, so let's have a look at that. What I'm going to do is give you a quick handheld view, and then I'm going to put the tripod up with my telescopic lens so you get a better view. So extensive views there across the Severn Plain. Obviously that's the River Severn, and the first hill you see there on the left is Stinchcombe Hill. I'll give a close-up of that. And the bigger one, which is the outlier, is Camlong Down. Again, we'll see more of that as we head south. Now we get a closer view with a different lens, and to the left of the screen you should be able to make out the River Severn with the Forest of Dean behind it, and that's near the town of Mitcheldean. Now the bit to the right of where you can't see the River Severn, it doesn't disappear, it actually goes around a loop, and that loop is called the Arlingham Loop. There's a slight mound on this side of the Severn where it does that, and if you look at the weather maps on the TV, you'll notice if you trace the river up from the Bristol Channel, from Bristol heading north, you'll see that the River Severn does a little squiggle, and that's where it does that, where it disappears from view there. So we're just going to move around to the left, and you can see that the Severn is actually opening up. I think it's kind of a mid-tide today, it's not low or high there. We're seeing the range of the Forest of Dean Hills there. And that there isn't a lake in the foreground, that's extensive solar panels. Heading round now on a clearer day, sometimes you can see the Black Mountains which lie beyond the Forest of Dean, heading into Wales, but I think it's just a little bit too hazy to make that out today. And the views continue round until the Severn really opens up. You might just be able to make out shortly the nuclear power station just there. Let's see if I can get that a little bit closer. Yes, it's the grey building there, just in the centre of the screen. To the left of that is Stinchcombe Hill, which we'll get familiar with again later on in this series of walks. Well, I hope you enjoyed those magnificent views across the Severn Vale there, out across towards the Forest of Dean, and where we're heading next as we continue our journey south along the Cotswold Way, which will be on vlog number 12. That's not quite it for today though. We're going to have a look at Hetty Pegler's Tump. I'm not sure what access is going to be like there, but we'll have a look. And then that won't be the end of today's vlog, because we're going to continue our journey back to where we started on a different route. This is the blue route that I've mentioned, which crosses and follows the length of the Stroudwater canal. So I'll be able to show you the section that's been completely renovated prior to waiting for when this fabulous canal reconnects to the rest of the canal network. This is Hetty Pegler's Tump, so named because of the 17th century farmers that lived hereabouts, named after Henry and Hester, hence Hetty Pegler. And they first discovered the Tump and cared for it. But it wasn't until the mid 1800s that proper archaeological investigations started, and there are lots of remains in Gloucester City Museum. So we're looking at the Neolithic period, around about 3,800 years BC, so around about 5,800 BC, so a similar period to the Nymphsfield Long Barrow that we looked at earlier. And the local soil and stone quarrying, nearby quarrying, has gone on here for millennia, as you can see, and it was originally edged with dry stone walling. So we'll go and have a look and see what we can see here. As you can see, it's sat in the corner of a very flat field at the top of the Cotswold Escarpment. I hope you enjoyed the brief tour around the inside of Hetty Pegler's Tump, or the Ewley Longbarrow, and we're going to continue our journey to make it a full circular walk here on the Cotswold Way. We're going to head back through Stanley Wood, Penwood, and then we're going to divert off to explore across the South Stroudwater Canal. So see you soon. Well, we've arrived back at the junction between the main Cotswold Way and the blue route, although it's marked with a green marker on this finger post here, as you'll see. Okay. Cotswold Way, circular walk, and 3.5 miles to Ryford. So we're continuing our journey along this way, where we're going to go up Selsey Common, where there's again stunning views across. We're going to head down back into the valley of the River Froome, and then make our way back to Far Westrip Farm. We're currently on Selsey Common, so we've climbed up through after leaving Penwood. Short way, Penwood is behind me. I'll pan around so you can see that shortly. And just to tell you that Selsey Common is one of several commons high above the Cotswold town of Stroud. The other most famous ones are Rodborough Common and Minchinhampton Common, which are both in the care of the National Trust. We're going to continue our journey across Selsey Common, then drop down back to a place called Dudbridge, which is just outside of the town of Stroud, where we'll join the Stroudwater Canal and have a look at some of the locks and the restoration that's taken place along there, before continuing our journey back towards Ryford, where we met Stanley Mill. So that's Rodborough Common and Rodborough Church, just on the edge of the hill there. And Rodborough Common continues all the way in that direction until it merges into Minchinhampton Common, which is just above the village of Minchinhampton, which is well worth an explore itself, and that may be subject to another vlog at some future point here on West Country Wanderings. And nestled down there is the town of Stroud, and just above and to the left of it is another village called Slad, made famous of course by Laurie Lee and the book Cider with Rosie. Now, I actually met Laurie Lee when I was at primary school twice, so I think that ought to be also a subject of a future vlog, a visit to Slad, so I can tell you all that I know about Laurie Lee, and we can visit his gravestone and where he used to drink in the pub there. In front of me here, at the end of the Selsey Common, again a stunning view, going back into familiar Cotswold Way territory. I think it was vlog number 3, perhaps 2, I'm losing track now, when we're heading north towards Chipping Campden. That in front of us there is the Cotswold town of Painswick, where we crossed over, if you remember, from Edge, and we made our descent to Painswick, and I did a little explore of the town there. So that's Painswick over there as well, about 3.5 miles north of Stroud. Now there is Selsey Church again. I haven't got time to visit it today, and it probably isn't open anyway. However, I do wish to visit it because of the stained glass. If you're a pre-Raphaelite painting fan, then there are some interesting pre-Raphaelite paintings there. Just found 3 fir trees, but what type of fir tree are they? So I think it's time for name that tree. Now it's taken me a little while to identify this tree here on Name That Tree. Got a different tree book today, nothing wrong with the tree book. I've just been led up a bit of a blind alley trying to identify it. But I have identified it, and a few things I want to point out which led me to identification. Firstly, where we are at the moment is a place called Stanley Park. It's got a long history. It's actually linked to somebody that set up the school I went to. More of that in another vlog. I'm not going to bore you with all that history now. But we are in a park, so it's the trees that have been planted here aren't natural. They're not native to this country. And in fact, this tree comes from California. It's a Californian tree. And if I can first of all show you these. That's what's growing on there. That's the needles. They're very steely and very pointed, and they're arranged spirally around the twig, as you can see. Interesting shape. But the giveaway, the real giveaway for this tree is the bark. It has to be the bark. Now over here, and I'll do a close-up, is you'll see it's very red. It's a very red shiny bark, but not only is it very red shiny bark, it has great big furrows in it, and that's the giveaway. That's the absolute nailer for this. And if we look at the bark identifier in the back of this cracking little book, you can see that. I'll do a closer up shot of that. It's called Wellingtonia. And I'll do some more photographs of it, and I'll just briefly read what it says, because it's pretty interesting. It's a native of California, but they are grown in parks throughout Europe. Crown is conical, as we've seen in the photographs. The needles are scaly and pointed. It does flower between April and May, but obviously it's not flowering at the moment because we're coming up to the end of August. The cones, I can't see any cones on it as yet, unfortunately, but they're oval. And the bark, as we've said, that's the identifier. It's soft, thick, reddish brown and furrowed. So there we go. 1 Wellingtonia, in fact 3 Wellingtonias, and they're called, I'll try and pronounce the Latin name, here we go, Sequoia androna gigentium. Well, gigentium is true because they grow to 85 metres tall, whopping great big trees. Fantastic to see these trees here in the heart of the Cotswolds in Stanley Park. Well, we're back where the loop meets up with the main Cotswold Way path, so we're going to head now back along there, back up to Far Westrip Farm. Hope you enjoyed the little sequence along the canal. Well, as you can see, the rain's come in now, but this is Journey's End. I'm back just above Far Westrip Farm. In fact, I'm on the other side to where we started our journey this morning, some 14 miles ago. I hope you've enjoyed the journey. I'm glad to sit down on this seat. I'm glad of that. So that's a view I've got across to the Far Westrip Farm where we started our journey this morning at 8 o'clock, and it's now, what time is it now? It's coming up to 6:15 on a Friday evening, so the rain's coming in. I hope you've enjoyed the journey here from Far Westrip Farm across to Hetty Pegler's Tump, and we did the blue route to the longer route across Selsey Common, and then we went to Ebley Mill and back along the canal and back up the hill again. So that's why I'm feeling a bit tired 14 miles later. I hope you've enjoyed the journey and the experience, and if you can, I highly recommend this walk. It's fantastic, but allow yourself plenty of time. It is quite steep and tricksy in places, but it's very, very enjoyable. I've certainly enjoyed it, though I'm feeling tired. I thankfully have not got too far to walk home from here. I'm about a mile from home, and it's all downhill, which is great. Anyway, if you have enjoyed it, please consider the usual like, subscribe, share, or, and I've just forgotten, I'm so tired now, a comment below. You can tell I'm feeling tired, but I have enjoyed it, don't worry. The weather is forecast really bad tomorrow, so that gives me a chance to get this one edited and uploaded so that all of you lovely subscribers and people that follow me that don't subscribe, then you'll be able to see it. So that will be off very, very soon, and the next one will follow at some point next week, which will be number 12, and that'll be from Hetty Pegler's Tump towards the Cotswold town of Dursley. Might be a bit beyond that, perhaps up to Stinchcombe Hill. See how we go. We're going to measure it and see the logistics of getting there and back and how we're going to do that, but you'll look out for that one, and there's some fantastic views to show you on that one as well, and a bit of history about Dursley and the industry that was there. Lots to tell you about that fascinating town. Anyway, until the meantime, hope you look after yourselves, hope you stay safe, hope you stay well, and I'll look forward to seeing you all again soon, and look forward to reading your comments. Until next time, all the best, take care, cheers now, bye bye.